Pedro from the 90-Day Fiancé franchise has caused Chantel Everett so much pain that his reputation may never fully recover. Pedro and Chantel met in 2014 when the two connected via a mutual friend. They started talking regularly, wanting to learn each other's language. Eventually, Pedro and Chantel fell in love with each other's personalities. They got into a relationship, and Chantel flew to the Dominican Republic to make things official with Pedro. The couple spent a few months together before they decided that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives with each other. Chantel returned to the United States and secretly filed for Pedro's K-1 visa, hiding her intentions from her family. In 90 Day Fiancé Season 4, Pedro and Chantel reunited in the United States to tie the knot. However, they faced a big situation, as Chantel had told her family that Pedro had come to America on a student visa. She didn't tell her parents she was already engaged to Pedro and wanted to marry him within 90 days. Eventually, Chantel's family grew more suspicious of Pedro's intentions. They started asking real questions, which ultimately pushed Chantel to come clean. She told her family about her relationship with Pedro a week before her wedding. Chantel's parents didn't mind that, but they asked Pedro to sign up for a prenuptial agreement. Ultimately, Pedro agreed to their terms, and the couple had a beautiful wedding ceremony. Chantel and Pedro seemed like the perfect couple when they married. However, fate was never in their favor. After their wedding, Pedro and Chantel struggled with money and family drama. They couldn't catch a break, with Chantel's mother implying that Pedro's mother was a witch who did voodoo rituals. Slowly, Pedro and Chantel's family issues seeped into their relationship, making them doubt each other. They fought a lot, not being able to trust each other. At one point, Pedro had a physical fight with Chantel's brother, which led to some bloodshed. Despite that, Chantel stayed with Pedro, hoping things would be good someday. Unfortunately, Pedro had a whole plan in his mind. He threatened Chantel that he'd leave her if things didn't improve by the time he got his green card. In 2019, Pedro and Chantel seemed to be doing better than before. They were both thriving in their careers, with Chantel putting all her effort into her passion for nursing and Pedro discovering ways to get into real estate. Unfortunately, it was just the calm before the storm. As Pedro got his job as a real estate agent, he started investing all his energy in his work. He stopped caring for his marriage and started hurting Chantel by showing no interest in her. At the time, Chantel cried a lot as she tried to find a solution to Pedro's changed behavior. However, he refused to communicate with her and allowed his marriage to die. Ultimately, Pedro asked Chantel for divorce. He broke her heart and claimed he simply fell out of love. The way Pedro treated Chantel was the biggest display of his ugly personality. Initially, he made her fall in love with her in the Dominican Republic. He allowed her to get close to him while teaching her Spanish. However, his behavior changed right after his marriage. He became cold towards Chantel and started demeaning her over small issues. Pedro also didn't show his wife care, respect, or love. He seemed more interested in his own life. When Pedro threatened Chantel that he'd leave her if she didn't fix her attitude, he proved he was never in love with her. Pedro also proved he was a terrible husband by never giving Chantel and her family a baby. During an interview with ET, Pedro and Chantel discussed having a child. The Georgia woman was ready to get pregnant and give her family an adorable grandkid. Unfortunately, Pedro showed little interest in her desire to become a mom. He said it wasn't the right time for them to become parents. Pedro also brought his estranged father into the conversation just to avoid having babies with Chantel. He said, "I want to be a good father. I don't want to make the same mistakes that my father did to me and my sister." Pedro has done many shameless things to hurt Chantel. In 2021, he started talking to his sister's former friend, Corema Morla, behind Chantel's back. Not only did he spend time with her, but he also had a steamy dancing session with her. Eventually, Nicole showed Chantel a clip of Karema giving Pedro a lap dance. Nicole told her sister-in-law everything just to hurt her. Pedro looked embarrassed then, but didn't do much to comfort Chantel. Instead, he sat there like a clueless man, making his wife feel like he cheated on her with Karema. When Pedro broke up with Chantel, he hurt her again by meeting Karema. Surprisingly, Karema rejected him and claimed she was already engaged. When Chantel discovered Pedro's shady behavior, she tried to encourage him to spend more time with her. However, Pedro shut her down and started using his work as an excuse. He stopped telling her about his work life and didn't keep her in the loop. Pedro looked depressed and unhappy with Chantel. However, all his office scenes with his female coworkers showed him smiling and blushing. He started paying extra attention to his teammate, Antonella, sharing more time with her than Chantel. Pedro confessed to doing so and said, "Right now we have close friendship." Pedro's friendship with Antonella hurt Chantel more than anything. He got to know his female coworker when his boss put them on the same team. The goal was for them to explore the real estate industry together, but their scenes showcased that they talked much more about their personal affairs than business. Pedro and Antonella shared a lot of time and grew closer than ever. The 90-day Fiancé alum even admitted that he was getting very close to his coworker and said, "Antonella, she's cool. And right now we becoming close friends." He later dropped her at her home. Chantel was unhappy about this friendship, but Pedro did nothing to reassure her. Instead, he complained that she was needlessly jealous about his unprofessional friendship with Antonella. He even posted photos with his female boss, Laura, appearing a bit too cozy with her. At the time, Pedro was accused of using his youthfulness to charm his boss. He likely considered sleeping with the right people to climb the corporate ladder. However, Pedro never tried to defend himself against the accusations. He stayed firm and continued to post cuddly photos with his boss. In May 2024, Pedro appeared in his latest photo with Laura. He hugged her from the side, putting his hand on her waist. Pedro's relationship with his coworkers, Antonella and Laura, may not be romantic. However, he hurt Chantel by staying close to them and spending too much time in the office. In The Family Chantel Season 4, Pedro even disrespected Chantel in front of his coworkers. One scene showcased Chantel meeting Pedro and his coworkers for drinks. She seemed happy to meet her husband's new friends, but he didn't seem so excited to have her around his colleagues. Pedro didn't even greet Chantel or hug her like a loving husband upon her arrival. Instead, he shut down all her attempts and humiliated her when she asked a basic question. Chantel asked, "Can you give me an introduction to your friends?" Pedro rudely responded, "You know all of them." It's hard to tell if Pedro cheated on Chantel with other women. He was close to many ladies over the last 6 years, but made no attempts to prove his innocence. Pedro also acted shady numerous times, making himself look like a cheater. Despite everything, Pedro's faithfulness was the last thing Chantel worried about. She was more hurt by his attitude and the fact that he stopped communicating with her. Chantel tried to salvage her marriage, doing everything she could to improve things. However, Pedro didn't acknowledge her efforts and kept emotionally damaging her until the last moment. He may not have cheated on her, but he betrayed her. The 90-day Fiancé cast member savagely destroyed his relationship with Chantel and broke all his marital vows.